Welcome to our episode again today. Here we are, Principals on the Come Up. Today we're going to be talking about the state of equity in the classroom. And we'll be looking at three essential ways for you to determine whether digital instruction and digital learning is working on your campus. You know, we talk about digital learning as something that we know that's always going to be a part of the educational environment these days. And we also know that our objectives have not changed as far as education is concerned. We know that we still have our mission, we still have our vision, and we still have our core values. It doesn't matter whether that is instruction that is given face-to-face, whether that is virtual instruction, or some type of hybrid instruction. That's going to be the core and the basis of all of our instruction. Now, we're not going to get off into a tangent looking at our virtual instruction and thinking that is the be-all and the end-all of everything. But what we're going to be looking at today is the weekly indicators, just something you can do on a week to determine whether there is equity. Now, equity is something that we have heard talked about, we've read about it, we've heard the positive about equity and we've heard the negative about equity. And equity simply means that we are going to be focusing on learning for all. We're going to be focusing on teaching for all. And we're going to be focusing on leadership. So we have someone who is coming on and I can't see who it is. So make sure you go and click on to StreamYard to make sure I can identify who you are. But I say good evening to you. So the part of equity, even though we are doing our face-to-face instruction in some environments, and we are doing our virtual instruction in most other environments, there are some things that we need to do weekly to determine whether there is actual learning going on in the classroom. Now, you have seen and you have heard and talked to teachers who are frustrated, teachers who are experiencing COVID, their parents, family members are experiencing COVID. There's some research that says that back in March and April, survey was done and it showed that only 20% of people felt as though COVID was real or that they even knew of someone who had COVID or someone who had died from COVID. Well, another survey was done just recently and it showed at least 70 people believe now that it's real. And they believe that because they know somebody who was diagnosed with COVID, or they have experienced a friend, a family member, a loved one who has died from COVID. So, of course, these things are still going to impact our teachers and our children in the classroom and also in the community. But as far as our principals are concerned, as far as our administrators are concerned, our job is to make sure that there is good instruction going on in the classroom. I want to say, hey, my name is Dr. Barbara Polk. I'm known as a turnaround principal. I have turned around schools in Texas, and I was appointed by the Texas Education Agency to go into low-performing campuses and turn those schools around, and I have been successful in over at least 5 of the schools where I have been assigned. I'm currently a consultant. I primarily at this time am working with schools in our rural areas, which are children who are poor. Their parents are poor. Their community is traditionally poor. So they are facing times of uncertainty as well. And of course, those schools are some schools that are traditionally low performing. But then we also have our schools who are not low performing, our students in schools who are excelling. And our principals, our newly assigned principals especially, during this time, we know that there's some things that are happening that you just don't have any control over. But what we're going to talk about tonight are 3 things that you do have control over during this time of COVID and during this time that we want to make sure that there is equity in instruction. And that equity simply means that everybody is going to be taught, everybody is going to be learning, and we have some leadership going on in the building. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about is instructional technology inventory. Remember, our title is 3 Essential Weekly Indicators of Digital Equity. Digital equity, meaning that everybody is teaching or learning, or there's leadership going on. So let's talk about instructional technical inventory. Now, you know, at the beginning of the school year that there was quite a bit of technical inventory that was involved. There was either software or there was hardware. We had children who were issued their laptops. We had teachers who were sent to training with new learning management systems. And there's all types of software that's being used that the districts have purchased with the purpose of making sure that our children were learning. But in the midst of all of this going on, research has found that all of that technology is not being used. What we're recommending that you do, and this is according to Douglas Reeves' research, and Douglas Reeves is a quantitative analyst. This is looking at Michael Fullen, who is a quantitative analyst. And we're looking at Marzano as well. I'm looking down because my battery is low, and I'm going to, there we go, kind of give some juice to this. Okay, so what I want you to do is take a weekly inventory of your technology. You might do a worksheet and a tally and ask all the teachers, ask all the paraprofessionals, which technology is being used. Which technology is being used? Because the districts have been given this money, they've purchased all of this equipment, and we know that all that equipment is not being used. So that's basically your technology inventory. And that you should be limiting your things and that you have to teach to at least 6 priorities, 6 things that you have to do. You know, we sometimes use a program for attendance, and we use another program for instruction. We use another program for assessment, but it shouldn't be any more than 6. People are not going to use any more than 6 types of technology. So make sure principals, instructional leaders, coaches, that you're limited to 6, because that's about all you can handle. And the second thing that is important when we're talking about digital equity, and that is meaningful access. Meaningful access. Now we know that when we talk about access, we know that our children who are in our low-performing schools, our children who are in areas where there's not access to Wi-Fi, school districts have done their best. They have done their level best to try to get access as far as internet access. They have sent buses to schools. They have added all types of access that's available. They have collaborated with the companies to provide access, giving all kinds of incentives for parents to have access. So we can say that the school districts and everybody else has done a good job with that. But now, what are we doing with that access in the classroom? Is there meaningful engagement with that access in the classroom? That means that, is everybody learning, or is the teaching just the same way it's always been taught, where you have a person at the front of the classroom, or a person who's at the computer doing a live Zoom, and you're just giving direction? You have, do you have engagement? Are the children engaged? Or are you just doing the same old thing you've always done, but you're just doing it through the computer? So what Douglas Reeves and Marzano and Michael Fullen, are suggesting, they're saying that you need to have some evidence principles. You need to have some evidence that the technology that is being used, that the access is there and there is engagement. So what can you do? Well, what you can do is you can take a percentage of your student enrollment on every Friday. Okay, and say if you have 300 kids in your building, if you have 600 kids, let's say do 50 to 100 random sample. Okay, random sample, and what you're looking for from each of those children, you're looking for evidence. You're looking for evidence that through this technology that there was some type of diagnostic assessment that the child had to show you that, yes, this is working. And I'm not talking about evidence like, can I show you where, I have attendance, although attendance is a big thing. Attendance is a big thing. Now, we talked about that a while back with the attendance. And we called that on our last episode, talking about dropping the bomb. And for a minute, let's go on and revisit that. And the attendance piece is that we have students and we have schools throughout the United States who will be failing children at the end of the first semester by the end of December 2020. They will be failing these students. One reason is because of attendance, because of the 90-10 rule. Now, remember, everything else has changed because of the pandemic. We're talking about technology right now and instruction because of the pandemic. Everything has changed, but the 90-10 rule has not changed. So, of course, the researchers are saying, hey, give these kids a break, give them a change, give them a chance. That's going to impact them. That's going to impact them for the rest of their lives. And if we're looking at ninth graders who will be failing at the end of the first semester, which will mean by the beginning of the second semester, many of them will not have at least 5 credits. At least 5 credits. And the funny thing is, most of the ninth graders, they don't even realize what credits are. They're just so happy to be in ninth grade. They're just so happy to be on the high school campus, are associated with people that are in high school. They have no idea. But here we are now, where they may be ninth graders. They have not received at least 5 credits. So what's going to happen to them? Parents, teachers, administrators, superintendents, they're going to drop out. That's what the research says. They say they're going to drop out. And when they drop out, and I know I'm off the subject, but we're talking about meaningful access and meaningful engagement. And we're talking about equity, where we're going to be fair to all of our children. And equity is about leadership. Equity is about learning. Equity is about teaching. If our kids drop out, then that means that they're going to be more likely to get involved with the juvenile justice system. They won't be able to get the kinds of jobs that's going to produce the kind of income that they need. They're going to be raising families in poverty. It's a spiral. It just goes on and on and on and on. Hey, Sharon, good to see you. It's just going to be going on and on and on. So what we're saying right now is, what can we do? And there are some things that we can do. We can make some changes. We can find a way to deal with that absence. We can find a way to get that engagement going. That's all the researchers are saying. So the second thing with the meaningful access is principals, assistant principals, coaches, You need some evidence that there is some engagement going on. At the end of the week, every Friday, what we're talking about, and we're going back now to number 2, what we're talking about is there evidence of learning? Evidence of learning. And the evidence of learning, we're saying, do a random sample. You can do your 50 kids, 50 random kids every Friday. And you can just go and find them. So let me see some type of assessment that you had, or let me see a writing sample, or let me see some type of home activity to show that there's evidence that there is engagement, that there's meaningful access to technology. That's all we're talking about. We want to show that there's evidence of learning. It's not just a piece of equipment that's in front of your face and we're doing the same old thing that we always did. Our children will not succeed. The third thing is interaction and active engagement. Now, we know that we have a great percentage of virtual classes. We know we have a great percentage. And we have some hybrid where we have some face-to-face and we have some virtual. But we're asking you principals, assistant principals, the researchers are saying you can drop into those classrooms. We're talking about 10 minutes, 10 minutes. I mean, even the busiest administrator has 10 minutes to go into a classroom and see if there is student involvement in that classroom, not the teacher standing in front of the classroom, but behind some piece of plexiglass, or if students are at their house and they're getting the instruction, that there's just that one-way communication. See if there is some engagement going on. See if there is an opportunity for children to show that they are learning what the teacher is teaching. Even the busiest administrator can do that. Even the busiest administrator. So what Douglas Reeves and Michael Fullen and Marzano, of course, Reeves is quantitative, does quantitative analysis for education. Fullen does qualitative, where he goes and he talks and he tells the stories and he hears the stories. And the third is Marzano, who does meta-analysis. So what we're talking about that is so important, and that is 3 essential indicators of digital equity. And one last thing that was not included in the 3 things, and that is our children's ability to have keyboarding skills. Now, you say, what? Keyboarding skills? Well, if we are not requiring our children to show evidence through writing examples, they're having to write, hello, I can't see your name, but hello. We can do that. We can make sure that our children have keyboarding skills. Now they have skills for their phones. I mean, they can whip something up with their thumbs, like you know what. But do they have keyboarding skills? Sometimes that's something that needs to be determined. That's something that could be holding our kids back. So all the researchers are saying is that you can do something, principal, assistant principal, coach, instructional leader on your campus, to make sure that there is equity. Hey, Erica Rose, to make sure that there is equity with our learning, the indicators that there is digital equity, because we are talking about our online instruction, our face-to-face instruction with using our computers, our laptops in class, because a lot of places they are doing the face-to-face and the online, and everybody is on Zoom. Okay, so it's not a part of the discussion tonight, but you know, there are going to be some discipline issues that are going to have to be dealt with. And if our children who are in need the most We will have the discipline problems. And if we as administrators and instructional coaches and assistant principals are not there to help, then we're going to get the same old results. And in some states, especially the state of Texas, we're still going to be bound by state assessments. And let me say one thing about the state assessments, principals, assistant principals, parents. You're not going to be able to teach everything. You're going to have to decide what are the most important things to teach. And then do a good job at that. Do a good job at that. And the thing is that makes you successful is that you know what you're going to teach. Make sure the children have learned. If they have not learned, what intervention do you have in place? And if they still have not learned, what are you going to do about it? You're not going to blame the children. You're going to collaborate. Will you have 100% of your children at 100%? No, absolutely not. But by golly, they will have more if nothing is done. So you're going to teach. You're going to determine if they have learned. You determine whether they have learned through your formative assessment and your summative assessment. And we're finding that some formative assessment is uninformative. You know, they just go through the motion and just keep on going on like they were going in the first place. You know those people, you've seen them. Was there intervention? Okay, they failed. What are we going to do about it? And I didn't say you, I didn't say me. I said, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to have to stay within the boundaries of our four little walls? And we're not going to collaborate with each other because they won't fit into the schedule? So you prefer for students not to learn because it doesn't fit into a schedule. Can something be done about that on your campus? I would think so. Because when it all boils down, we're talking about our children getting an education. And as I talked about dropping the bomb at the end of this first semester for our high schoolers, they dropped the bomb, they fell over, and there's research to show that 60% of the students right now, 60% of those high school students, especially those ninth graders, are at the verge of failing. Not just locally, but throughout the United States. They're just gonna fail because they didn't have butts in the seat. They didn't have all of the assignments entered. Okay, so they didn't have all the assignments entered. Is that the old way of thinking? Are we doing things differently, but we're gonna make sure that we punish them? Who are we going to punish? We're going to punish the community. We're going to punish the juvenile justice system. We're going to punish the criminal justice system. We're going to punish communities. We're going to make sure that families stay in poverty. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. So we have to come up with another way. We have to come up with another way. So what we have talked about tonight as we close, we're looking at essential ways to make sure that we have some weekly indicators that that there is digital equity, that we're doing all this computer stuff. We need to make sure that there is some equity. And we said that equity comes in inventory of our technology. No more than 6 things that they're doing. Meaningful access. Do all of our kids, have the access? Is the access meaningful? That is there engagement? How are you documenting that there is engagement? And we're talking about some evidence, such as digital assessment, some writing sample, or some kind of activity to show that with this digital information, we do know that they have they are engaged. And the third thing is interactive. Um, are you going into those classrooms, looking for evidence, going to the class, spending at least 10 minutes observing to make sure it's not just the teacher who's a sage on the stage. You want the teacher to be the guide on the side. That's in face-to-face, that's in digital, that's in online. That's what we're looking for good instruction. And good instruction means that we're going to teach. We're going to determine whether it's been learned. If it hasn't been learned, what intervention are we going to do? And if they still haven't learned, what are we going to do about it? So that's what we're going. So we're going to end tonight. Principles on the Come Up Facebook group. You can join the Facebook group. We have lots of information in there. We have all of our videos stored there for you to see and learn. As administrators, we're very, very busy as instructional coaches, and we really, really don't have a lot of time because we're just caught up in the mix of all the change. We are concerned about our community with the COVID going on, with the pandemic, and we still have to educate our children. That's the important thing. So as leaders, we thank you. And we'll be seeing you on next Monday at 5 p.m. Principles on the Come Up. I need you to share this. I need you to like it. I need you to go, if you're on Facebook, to go to Facebook and like it and join and subscribe, because there's some people who need to know about this. Don't keep it a secret. Don't keep it a secret. When you keep it a secret, then you're not helping. You may you make yourself look good, but you get when you give. You get what you give. The more you give, the more you get. So share this information with your colleagues. If you have any comments, certainly leave comments so that I'll know whether, this is making sense, or Dr. Polk, I really don't, I don't agree with you there. That really doesn't make sense. I mean, that's what learning is about. It's not everybody doing what I say when I say it. Other people have opinions, and opinions are fine, but let's deal in the facts. Let's deal in the facts. Okay. All right. So that's the end of our episode for tonight, and we will see you on next Monday at 5 p.m. Central. Principles on the Come Up. Good night. Thank you, Joy, Erica, Sharon. Good night.